Simon & Schuster Audio presents Reba, My Story by Reba McEntire with Tom Carter. Read by Reba McEntire.
I was on a plane headed for our show in Atlantic City, New Jersey, when my husband and manager Narvel Blackstock showed me an issue of the supermarket tabloid, The Star. Now, Reba, try not to get upset, he told me, but I could see that he was pretty upset himself. Usually we laugh off such gossip mill stories, but this time the press had gone too far. A photo of me from an awards ceremony was plastered all over the Star's front page, and over it was printed an enormous headline: "Shocking charge by 2 ex-wives. Reba stole our husbands." Inside were unkind interviews with Lisa Gilbert, Narvel's first wife, who has long ago remarried, since her divorce from Narvel 6 years ago, and Sherry, the former Mrs. Charlie Battles, who's been holding a grudge even longer, for a full 18 years since 1975. Why these women decided to speak out now was beyond me, and what they were quoted as saying was a hurtful exaggeration of the truth. But the truth doesn't sell newspapers, I guess. And when you're a public figure, everything you do is fair game for what I might call reinterpretation, if I was trying to be polite. That's one of the reasons that I'm speaking out, to set the record straight about my marriages and other matters that have been reported inaccurately by the press. But I have some other, more compelling reasons too. The first is that I'm lucky to have had a remarkable journey through life, and have met some wonderful people along the way, some of them in my own family. My grandpap, John Wesley McEntire, and my daddy, Clark McEntire, are famous for their rodeo triumphs. I was raised on a ranch which Mom and Daddy built from 40 acres at the time I was born to some 17,000 acres today, with us kids working alongside them, tending the cattle just as cowboys had done for the last 100 years. Also, I want my son Shelby to understand what the traditional McEntire cowboy life was like. My second reason is that I've had a marvelous time in the country music business and have been blessed with a thrilling degree of success. I'd like to give credit where credit is due. I could never have done it alone. Thirdly, I've had to face a terrible tragedy, and I've found that people want to know what it has taught me. Those questions haven't been easy ones to address, but I'd like to try. If there's anything I've learned, it's that there's no greater source of happiness than my family. I continue to get so much from them, emotionally and spiritually. For Christmas back in 1979, when I was making my first tentative inroads into the music business, my sister Alice gave me, of all things, a toilet seat cover. On it was monogrammed the words, "The Twinkle." She promised that if I ever made it big, she'd give me another one labeled The Star. I still haven't received it yet. That's my reminder that I haven't yet reached the top, that there's still so much for me to strive for and to achieve. Alice's gift, or lack of one, I guess you could say, shows me that at nearly 40, I have so much more to work for in life, so much more to look forward to. I sure can't think of a better gift than that. My daddy, Clark Vincent McEntire, is a former 3-time world champion tie-down steer roper. He began roping when he was a small boy and entered his first amateur roping contest when he was 12 in 1939. At Pendleton, Oregon, Daddy turned professional when he won the Pendleton Roundup All-Around Cowboy Trophy at 17 years old. And by 1957, the biggest year he ever had, he earned $5,184. I once asked if winning the championship was as good as getting there. He said no. The fun to me was seeing if I could beat him and win the money. After I won, it was like, so what? I'm a lot like my daddy. The McEntire clan built a legacy in the commercial rodeo world, but that story came a generation after my eccentric great-grandfather, Clark Stephen McEntire. He was born on a Mississippi River boat on September the 10th, 1855. Everyone in my family simply called him Pap. His family lived in Cairo, the southernmost city in Illinois. Pap had broken his back while riding a bicycle and carried a tremendous hump between his shoulders. Pap was married twice, fathered 12 children, and had numerous girlfriends, or so said Ray Williams, Daddy's cousin, who lived with Pap until he was 10. Ray tells a story about Pap traveling with his first wife and their 2 boys when one of the boys became ill. He decided the youngster needed chicken soup for medicine just about the time the group passed a house with a flock of chickens. Pap jumped from his wagon to chase a chicken, whose squawking alerted its owner. The owner ran outside and demanded to know what was going on. "We've got a sick child," Pap said. "Please help us catch one of our chickens that got loose." Well, the chicken's rightful owner chased it down and turned it over to Pap, not knowing he'd surrendered part of his own flock. The child eventually died, as did his brother. Within a month after burying the 2 boys, Pap buried his wife, the boy's mother, then went on with his life. At one point in his second marriage, he moved out of the house he lived in, with his wife and children, into a shanty filled with dogs, rats, snakes, chickens, bugs, and more. He called that dwelling his Dutch oven. He never washed his clothes or himself, and at night he'd put his coat on the back of a chair and a chicken or 2 would roost on it. The garment would be covered with droppings the next morning, but he would never wipe them off. He just put it on and let the droppings fall off throughout the day and in time to be replaced that night. He was one tough old bird. I'm told that people used to say it would kill a human being to live in that Dutch oven. I don't know if it killed Pap, but that's where he died, at the age of 79. It was Helen, Pap's second wife, who gave birth to John Wesley McEntire, my grandfather, who became our family's first rodeo star. In 1930, John Wesley McEntire, who us kids called Grandpap, and his wife Alice Kate Hayhurst McEntire, traveled from Cairo to Limestone Gap, Oklahoma, where Grandma Alice got a job teaching school. When my father was born, he weighed over 10 pounds, and my grandmother had a terrible time delivering him. Due to the primitive techniques in those days, she never fully recovered and suffered from female problems for the rest of her life. Even though both families were friends, my family told me how Grandma Alice's folks thought Grandpap was irresponsible because he wouldn't work the fields and cared little about anything that didn't involve riding and roping. Grandpap made so little money during the early years of their marriage, they might have starved to death if Grandma Alice hadn't been a schoolteacher. But Grandma was conservative with her money and saved, and they got by. And in time, Grandpap became a rodeo hero. In 1934, he took first place in the steer roping at Cheyenne, Wyoming, the indisputable championship rodeo of the world. In later years, Grandpap was a constant presence on our ranch, and us kids got very attached to him. My other grandfather, George Elvin Smith, was an orphan. Maybe that's why he was very sincere about taking care of his family. Even during the Depression, he made sure there was plenty of food on the table to eat and blankets on the bed. I was very close to his wife, my mama's mother, Reba Estelle Brassfield, and I'm her namesake, of course, and I truly adored her. She had Indian-like features with thick black hair that, with time, would streak with gray. She braided her hair every night, and it was almost like a ceremony to a little girl. I also remember how, in the evening, we'd sit on the front porch facing the west. Grandma